Hello everyone, it's Kitty. Happy holidays! It is that time of year again. The Winter Festival has arrived in Jorvik for its 11th year, and we are all working endlessly to earn our winter tokens, eyeing which horses we want to bring home for Christmas, and opening our Advent gifts. Winter traditions weren't always like this, you know? While most of the activities we are presented with during the Winter Festival can be fun and rewarding, there are many activities we have left behind as the years go by. I'm here to take you on a festive journey to the past, to show you what celebrating Christmas used to be like in the beginning era of Star Stable Online. So grab your hot cocoa and a warm blanket, because you're in for a festive and fun nostalgia treat. The very first Christmas arrived on Jorvik on November 28th, 2012, a year and 2 months after Star Stable's soft launch in Sweden. Unlike what we will experience in the upcoming years, snow arrived on day 1 of the Christmas event in 2012, alongside the first ever Christmas quests in Star Stable Online, which included harvesting a Christmas tree from Nilmer's Highland and setting it up amidst the Silverglade town square. One of my favorite parts about decorating the Christmas tree in Silverglade was going on separate missions to acquire the ornaments and tinsel. For example, for the gold ornaments, we would have to search at the bottom of the Silverglade castle, which made a lot of sense to me because most people store their Christmas decorations in cellars and attics when the holiday has passed. It was a cute little treasure hunt for the golden orbs. There was a miscommunication between Steve and the councilman of Silverglade, as Steve had accidentally given all of the traditional red ornaments to Will the millman as a thank you for all of the great cheese. Steve requests that we trade the red ornaments from Will with white ornaments. Will happily complies. We take down all of the red ornaments from the windmill and ride to go put them back on the tree. The tinsel for the tree was given to us by the Baroness, as per the Silverglade Christmas tradition, a neat and tidy fetch and retrieve quest with no extra labor. We were tasked with building snowmen as well, but not just with any snow. We specifically had to ride to Valedale and ask Elizabeth to help us get the finest snow from the mountain pass leading into Dinosaur Valley. And in 2012, that was foreshadowing a huge part of what was to come next for the game. We get to spend more time with everybody's favorite druid during the holidays, as Elizabeth wants us to help shape some homemade candy canes. She then asks us to deliver a bundle of candy canes for Mario the Astronomer. Once we make the long journey up the mountains and to the observatory, Mario thanks us for the gift, and we learn that he calls Elizabeth E. Ever since I started playing this game, I have loved the cute relationship Mario and Elizabeth share, and wish Star Stable could have expanded on that storyline further. Since Elizabeth helped us out with gathering snow to build snowmen, we retreat back to the councilman, and he pleads that we must hire the best snow sculptor in Jorvik. And it just so happens that person is the little sleazy James from Fort Pinta. We ask James to help with the snowman, and he tells us that his help comes with a price. We must watch over the Fort Pinta stables while he makes a run to Silverglade Village to sculpt the snowman. This quest stands out to me because around Christmas time in 2012, Steve's farm in Fort Pinta had finally been given actual stables you can walk inside. Operation Snowman was a success, as James had held up his end of the bargain. Sort of. It was the ugliest snowman the councilman had ever seen, as he was completely lacking any sort of personality and decoration, which was left to us to find the poor snowman a face, nose, and broom. We were tasked with gathering loose stones by the walls enclosing Silverglade Village for the snowman's face, asking Barney to help us find the most ripe carrot for his nose, and riding down to Moorland to see if Mrs. Holdsworth has any spare brooms. We're not going to talk about how we have to literally catch the flying broom as it tries to escape Moorland Beach. This is a cute detail looking back all these years later, seeing how it has now been revealed that Mrs. Holdsworth is secretly a witch. No wonder she would have a flying broom in her possession. Once we have gathered all of the materials to make a happy snowman, the councilman has one last finishing touch for our snowy friend, a dressage hat, once worn by Anne von Blissen, kept above the fireplace in the city hall in honor of her legacy, foreshadowing that 7 years later, we would be releasing her from the grasp of Pandoria. We received the quest called The Crowning, where it instructs us to place the dressage hat on top of the snowman. Later, we are requested by the councilman to hang up Christmas lights at 4 different stables across Jorvik: the Silverglade Equestrian Center, Moorland, Valedale, and Firgrove. Once completed, more illumination is needed in the village to pacify the lack of daylight experienced during a harsh winter. The councilman asks you to set out cute Christmas candles in various spots of Silverglade Village. Okay, I think it is time for a well-deserved intermission. Thank you all for making it this far. Are you staying warm? How are you on snacks? Take this opportunity to pause the video to take care of what you may need right now. When you come back, I'll be giving my thoughts on what we have discussed so far. Alright, are we ready to continue with the intermission? Let's review. You may be confused as to why I am doing an intermission in the middle of my documentary. Normally I save my thoughts towards the end, but I believe this is a more ethical approach, as we can take a pause and I can give my 2 cents while the topics are still fresh on our minds. I had a brief idea of what Christmas quests I remember from the earlier years, but admittedly, I did have to research the details through various Let's Play videos and online blogs. It was worth every minute of investigating, because these special quests are so near to my heart, and it's something we haven't experienced in so long. For the time being, I have only discussed the quests that were released in 2012, the very first year that Christmas was celebrated, but actually, these quests were reintroduced every year after 2012. Because it was the same story and tasks every year, it got a bit tedious at times. Pick up these ornaments, hang those lights, deliver this package. The repetitiveness got boring at times, but these Christmas preparation quests were tradition, and I always wanted to honor tradition. I was too young to really treasure the moments I spent doing these quests, but looking back on them, watching these Let's Play videos, I have come to appreciate how passionate the storytelling is in the dialogue. They made sure to include points like James scamming people, Mario and Elizabeth's relationship, the reference of Anne, and much more. All are concepts that we have come to recognize through other permanent story quests. I'll say this until the day I die. I miss participating in the decorative process on Jorvik. Nowadays, lights are automatically hung, trees are already set up, candles have been lit. I have found it quite hard to get into the holiday spirit in recent years, as the quests that are offered to us are very bare minimum. They take seconds to complete, and more often than not, conclude with some sort of race, which gets very repetitive. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that they made the effort to reinvite snow into Star Stable. It came back in an excellent fashion too. This time around, the snow leaves trails when we walk through it. There is even an option to enable and disable the snow for those who may experience computer lag, which is very considerate. I find it ridiculous that some of the weeks of the Winter Festival, the only content we're offered for the week is a new set of clothes and tack or new horses. I understand that they need to capitalize off of the holiday. They are a business after all. But to have it be the only thing that players can experience that week, I would be more accepting of this strategy if they had activities and quests to tag along with the release of these items. When the Icelandic horse was released amidst the holiday in 2015, Star Stable added snow and a batch of annual Christmas quests on that same day. I believe that the lack of activities and holiday quest lines may be related to the fact that allegedly, Star Stable has fallen short of story writers these past few years. Engaging story quests and storyline is just no longer prioritized at the company, and I believe it may be difficult to find writers just as passionate and knowledgeable about the game as the original team who made the old holiday quests. This has come at the cost of players feeling a sense of joy and holiday spirit during the Winter Festival. Anyway, to summarize, I miss these long holiday preparation quests because they immediately put me into the holiday spirit every year. The quests gave me something to look forward to every day and every Wednesday. It made me feel like I was a part of this virtual community, a sense of importance when helping all of the characters with their Christmas dilemmas. The current Winter Festival makes me feel nothing but overwhelm and fear of missing out on limited edition horses and items. I am so over the Winter Village as a whole, and I'm wishing that the holiday will be brought back to the island sometime soon. Okay, rant over. Let's escape back to a reality where Christmas feels warm and cozy. We came back the following day for the next batch of Christmas preparations the councilman has for us. This time, we are setting the table with some traditional your vegan Christmas food. Mrs. Holdsworth in Moreland is in charge of the Christmas feast every year, so the councilman requested us to ride down to her cottage and see how the food is coming along. Disaster strikes as Mrs. Holdsworth explains that her cat had eaten all of the fish needed to cook the Christmas feast, and wonders if we would be able to ask May, the stable girl of Moreland, to catch us some more fish. Once we explain the situation to May, she pleads that she does not have time to catch more fish, as it is really busy at Moreland Stables. May's solution is to run us through the basics of catching fish in hopes that we can take over the job to save the Christmas dinner. We comply, and swiftly run down to Moreland Pier to catch 6 fish in a net from Mrs. Holdsworth. I love this mini activity. It wasn't as challenging as the regular fishing mechanic in Star Stable is. It was a super rewarding quest, and it was an extra step that made me feel super immersed in the storyline. I really appreciate these hands-on side quests. Once we deliver the fish we had caught to Mrs. Holdsworth, she bids us farewell and advises us to visit the councilman tomorrow for more Christmas tasks. It's a new day for decorating. It was time to decorate the tree with shiny emerald baubles, which we acquire from Carney at the Silverglade vineyard. Of course, receiving the ornaments came with a twist, though. It was revealed that the stable hands at the equestrian center had spent days looking for these green baubles. Luckily, they had been found in the hayloft just in time for our arrival. We are requested to stand on green X's while someone throws the ornaments down from the hayloft for us to catch. This activity was an imitation of catching orbs in Soul Rider training, which is now a deleted quest. Now that we have successfully obtained the emerald ornaments, it is time to place them in their respective spots of the tree. One of my favorite parts of Christmas is definitely giving gifts. I become really competitive with it, and I have to make sure I'm known as the best gift giver. There is nothing like seeing the pure shock on the recipient's face when they open my gift to them. Although, I may have been dethroned by Felicity of Firgrove. In this next quest, the councilman inquires about Felicity needing a specific type of metal to build a sled for Andy the Shepherd. We are asked to retrieve this medal and are given the coordinates that were written down years ago by a world-famous adventurer, Nick Stoneground. Another case of foreshadowing Dinosaur Valley 2 years before its grand release. We follow the coordinates, and it leads us to the abandoned UFO crash site in the mountains. If the medal Felicity is looking for comes from a UFO, no wonder it's so special. We take a trip to Fir Grove and deliver the special medal to her for the sled, and she expresses her gratitude. She also gives us a heads up to come back tomorrow for more Christmas preparations. Meanwhile, in Silverglade, the councilman pleads with us that James was a little sad that he did not get any Christmas lights hung in his brand new stable. He has a lot of nerve after building us that disaster of a snowman. But of course, we accept his wishes and run down to Fort Pinta to give the little guy some holiday cheer in his stable. After we finish decorating, James tells us that he has a Christmas gift for the councilman and asks us to bring it to him whenever we find ourselves in the village. We deliver the gift to the councilman, and he was flattered at the gesture. He decides to place it under the Christmas tree and wait to open it during the big day. Later, Steve wants us to help keep the local birds fed during the harsh winter. He asks us if we would be so kind as to hang up sheaves around his farm, the windmill, and Marley's paddock. Once we make our way back into the village, we are informed by the councilman that Harold has spent the day baking gingerbread cookies for the town. We are requested to pick them up from Harold and have the councilman approve of their quality before we hand them out to the villagers. Luckily, the gingerbread managed to pass the test. The councilman then went on to task us with decorating the townhouse doors with the gingerbread. One of the more iconic Your Vegan Christmas traditions is the concept of the Christmas garden gnome. We were requested to decorate the townspeople's yard with a gnome of their very own. The Christmas gnome also later became an exclusive saddlebag accessory in 2016. Once the job was complete, we informed the councilman that the townspeople's houses have successfully been decorated for the holiday, with the likes of gingerbread hearts hanging from their front doors, candles lit on their doorsteps, and cute little garden gnomes watching over their house. The councilman expresses his gratitude for all of our help today, and he hopes that the garden gnomes won't run away this year. Before we leave for the day, the councilman wants us to go pick up a surprise gift from Carney at the vineyard. It just so happens to be a brand new bridle that the councilman requested Carney to make for us. This gesture made for a wonderful early Christmas present. The following day, we were tasked with gathering buckets to fill with apples for the horses. The councilman advised us that Will has the buckets ready for pickup at his windmill. Now that we had the buckets, we needed apples to fill them. Steve provided us with helpful information on where to get the best apples in Jorvik. There is an orchard near the shoreline in Fir Grove, east of the Thorn Rocks. That is where we would find the apples to accompany the buckets. Once we have gathered 30 apples from the orchard, we get a bit of backstory from Steve about the mysterious orchard. Nobody knows who planted the trees, but the word going around is that a fruit bat who lived in the Thorn Rocks accidentally dropped the fruit which grew the trees. Interesting piece of lore, surprisingly snuck in a Christmas quest. Steve requested us to pack the buckets full of apples, and even feed some to the horses in Steve's farm. We rode over to the councilman to deliver the remaining buckets of apples going out to the other stables in Jorvik, which we are rewarded for with our own batch of apples. The pinnacle of holiday preparations in Star Stable's place of origin, Sweden, would have to be the Yul Goat or Yul Goat. So it just made sense that the developers would find a way to implement the Yul Goat into the world of Jorvik. After the buckets of apples intended as gifts for the other stables were given to Derek the postman to send out, the councilman entrusted us with the most important holiday tradition, the making of the Yul Goat. The first step was to ask the Baroness for the finest red silk ribbon. to which she immediately delivers. But we were still missing the straw, and in a game full of horses, surely this component was impossible to come by. The Baroness suggests we speak with Tyra, one of the stable girls of the Silverglade Equestrian Center. Tyra kindly gives us the best straw in the barn, and we are off to deliver the makings to the councilman. Now that we have all of the elements required, we built the goats from scratch. Luckily, they come out better than James's snowman. Now that they're ready, the councilman gives you instructions on where to place them in the village. Once the goats are set up perfectly within the town square, the councilman gives you undoubtedly the biggest task of the season. The request is to pick up presents from 9 different characters, all in different locations, ranging from Firgrove and Fort Pinta to Moorland and beyond. Luckily, horse transportation exists, although in 2012 it was much more expensive than it is today. I couldn't imagine being in the middle of that quest and your game crashes, forcing you to start all over again. After that strenuous request, we get the opportunity to put all of the Christmas presents underneath the tree we have decorated. Now the tree has some little gift boxes to accompany it, putting us all further into the Christmas spirit. Although, the tree isn't the only place to check for presents. The next quest was to visit Donald the tailor and ask if he has finished knitting some handmade Christmas stockings. Once the stockings are acquired, we ponder the perfect place to hang a Christmas stocking. Luckily, there was a space available that was perfect for them. A space that Santa couldn't miss. Star Stable introduced another amazing Swedish holiday tradition into the game with Christmas porridge. Silverglade's most notorious baker, Harold, had been cooking the porridge all night for us to place upon the doorsteps of the townhouses, specifically to appease the house elves that watch over our homes and barns at night. It's a tradition much like leaving cookies and carrots out for Santa and his reindeer, only cooler. The next step in preparing for a wonderful Christmas is refreshments. The Baroness was in charge of the traditional Christmas cola. We were tasked with delivering the cola back to the village from the manor, which was a particularly tricky duty. This quest would require us to ride at a moderate pace to refrain from the cola reaching intense pressure and bursting. This was a reused mechanic from a few different quests. Most notably, when you deliver eggs from the Firgrove sandpit all the way to the village without breaking them. Once we successfully deliver the Christmas cola to the councilman, he is in a state of panic, as he reveals that the Yul Goats have miraculously come to life and are sprinting around the village. We construct a plan that requires a lasso from Steve. Once we obtain the lasso, we must put our Western riding skills to the test and catch the 5 Yul Goats. Now that the Yul Goats were caught, the councilman decides to keep the goats locked up for the night to see if they will calm down. The next day, unfortunately nothing came of the councilman's plan. They were still as agitated as ever. He explained how he was barely able to sleep during all of their antics. Completely worried Christmas may be ruined, he begs us to take the goats to Elizabeth in Valedale and see if she could help us out. Elizabeth diagnoses the problem as the goats being manipulated by some sort of dark magic on the island. This turns out to be a serious threat. In the dialogue, Elizabeth explicitly says, "I have managed to stop the magic for the moment, but whoever did this has to know it would be noticed. I suspect they want us to know that they are here now, and that a new powerful magician has come to the island. This scares me a little bit, and I wonder who it could possibly be." My interest peaked when I read the word magician, as none of the notorious villains such as Mr. Sands, Garnock, or even Darko have been referred to as magicians. But there is one character that can be described as a magician, a character we would not have recognized in December 2012 until many months later. So, my theory is that the goats becoming whimsically animated was an act performed by Idris, foreshadowing his arrival on the island months later alongside his circus. Once Elizabeth had cured the goats, we were off on the road again, back to Silverglade Village with the goats. Every tree deserves to have a star on top. It is the finishing touch to a beautifully decorated tree. Now that we have completely decked out the Silverglade tree from head to toe with ornaments, tinsel, and candy canes, it was time for our lovely tree to have its very own star. Barney had the responsibility of keeping the traditional tree topper in his silo for storage, but unfortunately has come to find out that the wind had carried it out of his silo and is now lost. When breaking the news to the councilman, he explains that Mario had actually seen a falling star that looked like one that you would place on top of a Christmas tree. He said the last spot the star was located was near Doyle's Abbey, the church on the southwestern shores of the island. We make our way southwardly to look for that star, and receive some help from a shepherd named Mary who occupies the outside of Doyle's Abbey. Mary tells us that the falling star had scared one of her sheep really bad, and that she watched the star be carried by the wind through the thorn rocks and beyond the orchard on the other side of the riverbank. With this new information, we cross the Silversong River towards Fir Grove in hopes that the star will turn up. Upon arrival at the orchard, we are greeted by Sonia, a stable girl from the Silverglade Equestrian Center who frequently rides around in the Hollow Woods. Sonia is at the orchard for the same reason we were there a few days before, to feast upon Jorvik's tastiest apples. We inform her of our situation and she provides us with some helpful information. Sonia tells us about the time she had ridden past a bear cave not too far from the orchard, and strangely saw a star nestled in the back of the cave. With that in mind, she insists we follow her to the cave to retrieve the golden Christmas star. After a long journey through the rough terrain of Fir Grove, we find the bear cave, and what Sonia said was true. The star was just lying there. She pleads for you to go reclaim the star from the cave, and despite it being a huge risk, we comply. In order for you to safely get the star, you must dismount and walk into the outskirts of the cave, trying not to wake the sleeping bear. After successfully managing to retrieve the star, Sonia applauds you for your bravery and tells you to get back to Silverglade Village so Christmas can finally begin. The councilman gives you the honors to place the star on top of the tree, which I don't know how that is possible considering the tree is taller than the city hall, but it's fine, it's Jorvik. All that is left to do is wait until the next day to open your presents under the tree and see what Santa left inside the stocking. And alas, 24 hours passed by and the day we had all been waiting for finally arrived. The very first Christmas in Star Stable Online. All of our hard work had paid off. The presents you receive included 120 character XP, 250 reputation with Silverglade Village, a red hat like Santa's, an exclusive red trench coat, and a magical powder used to turn your horse into a reindeer. We all hear the familiar tune of Divine Friends as we are greeted with a message scroll, wishing us a very Merry Christmas from everyone in Jorvik. And with that, wraps up the very first Christmas on Jorvik. I truly miss experiencing such a wonderful and immersive holiday on my favorite game. I really appreciate the reintroduction of the snow, but my only wish for next year would be to celebrate the Winter Festival with all of the wonderful characters of Jorvik through long and engaging quest lines. Much like what we dove into today. Next time, we'll be reminiscing on the celebrations held in the newly released area of 2013, the Harvest Counties, which included meeting the jolly old man himself, Santa. Reflecting on the earlier days of winter in Star Stable has truly put me in the Christmas spirit. I hope you feel the same way. If you're in the mood for gift giving, the perfect present for me would be your subscription to my channel. I frequently post content regarding Star Stable nostalgia and history on this channel. If Star Stable nostalgia warms your heart this holiday, I also have an Instagram page where I post old Star Stable snippets you can't find on this channel. You can find me on Instagram at kittyspiderweb. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, wherever you may be in the world. Stay safe and stay warm. This has been Kitty Spiderweb, signing out.